It does. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ochoa. You are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. California deserves a redistricting process that is fair, transparent, and free from political gamemanship. It was mentioned the fact that as Republicans, we haven't supported such measures in the past. But unfortunately, many a times when measures are placed forward in this body, because of the supermajority, many of the times we're not included to give feedback and input on these measures. And therefore, these measures don't necessarily become equitable or fulfill the full intent of that bill. And it's one of the reasons why we could not support the measure that was mentioned earlier by my dear colleague from Santa Cruz. I looked up the analysis for that particular bill right after you mentioned it, and we'll have conversations after the session. But going back to this particular bill, weakening and discarding the independent commission, even temporarily, betrays the trust of the voters placed in us and undermines the integrity of our democracy. California has long set the standard for fair redistricting, outfitted with a voter-established independent commission. Question of the author, ma'am.
Will the author take a question? Will the author take a question?
Yes.
You may proceed.
Through the president. Does the state of Texas have an independent commission on redistricting voted by the voters of Texas?
They do not.
Okay. The Citizens Redistricting Commission was created to end decades of political gerrymandering. Rolling back the progress for short-term gains risk undoing years of hard-fought reforms. Californians deserve leaders that will protect the independent system voters demanded and preserve it for generations to come. Unlike Texas, we have this. They do not. And it falls, question of the author.
Yes.
Will the author take a question?
Absolutely.
You may proceed.
Does the Texas legislature have the purview to redraw their lines?
They do. They don't have the purview to violate the Voting Rights Act and disenfranchise their voters, but that is what they're doing.
So as mentioned earlier by my colleague from Bakersfield, the state of Texas was sued and was obligated to redraw their lines. Checkpoint. Before the commission's creation, district lines were developed in secrecy through insider deals, often protecting incumbents or political insiders. California voters ended that in 2008 with Proposition 11, the Voters' First Act, which established the commission. 2 years later, Proposition 20 expanded its reach to include congressional districts. Since then, the commission has consistently delivered maps through open, publicly reviewed processes, even successfully adapting during the pandemic-delayed 2020 cycle, earning praise for transparency and efficiency. If signed into law, today's proposed legislative package would strip the commission's authority, quote unquote, temporarily, granting lawmakers control over congressional redistricting for the 26, 28, and 30 election cycles. While framed by some as reactive to nationwide redistricting trends, critics warn that it compromises California's voter-approved safeguards and damages its leadership and electoral fairness. This proposal undermines the voters' trust, since the commission was created by the voters to ensure fairness, transparency, and accountability. Repealing it would feel like repudiating the voter intent. AB 604 was drafted without constitutional safeguards intended to promote fair and representative district maps. Stated that these maps are intended to elect 5 additional Democrat congressional seats. Let's register that. This mid-cycle redistricting plan undermines the state's constitution by seeking a voter-approved amendment that would temporarily waive the key provisions of the California State Constitution's Article 21, allowing politicians to redraw lines for partisan gain rather than adhering to established democratic principles. First, the plan ignores the constitutional mandate that redistricting occur only in the year following the year in which the national census is taken under direction of Congress at the beginning of each decade. By pushing for changes mid-decade outside the post-census window, this proposal disrupts the every 10-year rhythm that's designed to ensure districts reflect accurate, updated population data. This could open the door to arbitrary manipulations where the political winds shift. Second, it waives the rigorous criteria outlined in the state constitution that prioritizes geographical and social considerations to promote fairness. These include requiring districts to be geographically contiguous, criterion 3, respecting the integrity of cities, counties, neighborhoods, and communities of interest by minimizing their division, criterion 4, and ensuring compactness where practicable, criterion 5. And I know that it was stated that 76% of these congressional districts fit the Redistricting Commission's criteria, meaning these. But the additional and the remaining do not, therefore violating the very intent and the guidelines of the Constitution. The legislature's secretive, and secretive meaning no one can divulge where they came from, and rushed map drawing processes discards these standards. And secretive meaning that no one knows how they were drawn, but yet they've appeared secretly by an unknown hand online. And now they're transparent because they're there. But no one knows who placed them there and who drew them in the first place. Potentially fracturing cohesive communities and creating convoluted districts that prioritize electoral outcomes over logical boundaries, as stated on this body in this floor today. Finally, the plan flouts the Constitution's explicit prohibition against partisan gerrymandering, which states that districts shall not be drawn to favor or discriminate against an incumbent, political candidate, or political party. And yet, once again, on this floor today, it was mentioned that it was due to the reasoning of electing 5 Democrat congressional districts, stated on this floor. By suspending the Citizens Redistricting Commission and empowering the legislature to redraw these maps, this legislation invites blatant favoritism, eroding the impartiality voters enshrined in the Constitution to prevent self-serving power grabs. Folks, this is serious. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very, very serious. When we are elected, we swear an oath to uphold both the U.S. and the California Constitution. Regardless of what any other state does, that is what we do when we stand on this floor, this red carpet, and we raise our hand. 2 wrongs don't make it right. And when it says to join our colleagues in repudiating other states for what they're doing. Folks, we were elected to represent the state of California. I had a podcast I was listening to just this morning talking about whether or not term limits should exist. And one of the arguments that were stated in this podcast was whether or not, we should have term limits. And the gentleman speaking said, well, people get what they elect. And if we have an electorate that is uneducated and they can continue to pick someone to be elected, then that's what they get. If Texas has not changed their constitution, if they have not created a redistricting commission, then folks, who are we to direct the autonomy of the legislature of that state? What authority do we have to influence another state's legislature elected by their people? I think it's humbling to think that we should do that. If we have relationships, great. Have those conversations. But as a body, to go to another state as elected and think that we have the authority to tell them how to run their state, I think it's ridiculous. I think it's disrespectful to them and to the people who elected those to represent them. I respectfully ask for a no vote.
Thank you. Senator Caballero, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. It's been interesting listening to the comments today. Senators, California didn't start this fight. We've always had an amicable relationship with our president. Amicable because the president understands that California is a donor state to this great country. And we've lived with it for years. We pay more in taxes than we get back. We all know that. So why come after California? Why make us an example to the rest of the country by attacking our immigrants, by putting tariffs that have hurt our farmers and that now is going to start to hurt our residents, by taking away benefits that are really important in our state as we've tried to meet the needs of our country. So California didn't start this fight. And my party didn't start this fight either. Let me be clear. I don't shy away from a good competition. I love sports, soccer, football, baseball. I love it all. In my family, we have our favorite teams that we watch and we follow and that we support. And I can tell you they are raucous games when we have people on different sides supporting different teams. So I don't have a problem with opposition or with conflict. But what I do insist on is that the game be fair. I do insist that everybody know what the rules are at the beginning of the game and then it's not changed. We all know how the game is played. We all need to expect that the refs are going to be fair. And, we have our arguments about whether that call was right or not. But we want everybody to be treated with respect and that everyone will follow the rules, including the players. Folks, that's not what's happening in our country today. The president knows that what he's doing is hurting people, and it is. It is. It's hurting everyday average Americans. And that hurt is real. The prices have gone up. There's uncertainty in the market, hard to get a loan, housing isn't selling. That's not because of what we've done. That's because of the pressure of tariffs and messing around with the market. So the president's afraid he can't win. He's afraid he can't win an election in 2 years to ensure that he maintains control over everything that's going on in the country. So he's taken an action to rig the election. It won't be a fair competition. It's playing dirty. It's cheating. It's cheating. And it's making sure that he continues to be in charge, even if the voters want change. Even if the voters want change, he's rigging it. It's a power grab. We didn't pick this fight, but my residents have asked me to take action, to do something to relieve the pain caused by the president's attack on California and on our families. And some of that attack won't be felt until after the midterm elections, which is really cynical. Look, it didn't have to be this way. We all could have worked together, all of us on this floor, across party lines, to denounce and condemn the president's attempt to rig the next election. We could have done it together, to put public pressure as leaders and as elected officials, to say we want a fair game, no shenanigans, no cheating, no dirty games. But listen, my good friends on the other side of the aisle, you haven't said a peep. You've said nothing to condemn the president's attacks on California and on our residents. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And I get it. You don't want to contradict your presidents, and so you've taken sides. Well, I choose the people in my district. I choose to defend Californians. I choose to fight for a fair election. I choose to listen to the people who say, we need you to take action. So I ask you for your aye vote today.
Thank you. Senator Cervantes, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President and members. As we know, the proposed maps in this bill are not wholly new. They build upon the year-long process undertaken by the California Citizens Redistricting Commission after the 2020 census. About 75% of Californians will remain in the same district that they reside in currently today. These maps do a better job of avoiding splitting counties and cities than those created by the commission. And let me just say, how is it okay when their party adopts redistricting, but when it's the other party, it's a problem? Please, spare us the hypocrisy. That said, I am puzzled by the admiration that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle are showing for independent citizens redistricting commissions. Except for our colleague from Huntington Beach, who has not been present for any of these bills, every Republican of this Senate body has voted against bills creating county citizens redistricting commissions. The legislature is entitled to propose amendments to the state constitution. And unlike Texas, we are taking it to the voters. We are acting now to save our future. I respectfully ask for an aye vote on AB 604.
Thank you. Senator Jones, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President and members. A couple of fine points first, Madam President. Regarding the comments from our colleague from Santa Ana mentioning that if Texas goes forward with their redistricting, we will continue with our redistricting. My understanding is that the constitutional amendment has been amended to take that language out, and California is moving forward regardless. But I will clarify that when the ACA comes over and ask a question of the author on that. On this particular bill, AB 604, I do have a quick question of the author if she would be willing to take it.
Will the author take a question?
Are you familiar with, or can you cite for us any lawsuit in California of somebody suing the Redistricting Commission for the lines that they drew either in 2012 or 2022, arguing that those lines were unconstitutional?
You may proceed.
I am not personally familiar with any lawsuits.
Great, thank you. Neither am I. And that's because our process isn't unconstitutional. Now, many of us had problems with the lines with 2022 when they came out, both Democrats and Republicans. got a little gripey about some of the lines. Legitimately, I believe so. But we didn't sue. We kind of, went with it and made the best of it that we could. One of the things I want to share this morning is I'm very proud of my Republican colleagues for their demeanor this morning and their professionalism in their comments, regardless of the incendiary and accusational comments of the open on this bill, AB 604. And I will share that compliment with my Democrat colleagues as well. I think that the debate has been very professional and moving us along. One of the things I'm very concerned about in the debate this morning that I want to raise attention to is some terms that were used this morning on the floor. Rigged, dictator, unchecked power, period, full stop. That one cracks me up when you all use that one, because I know the governor uses that all the time. So I don't know if you're trying to get in his good graces by imitating him or whatever, but period, full stop. There's usually a lie behind that, by the way. Bully, autocrats. Permission to read, Madam President.
Without seeing any objection, it is granted.
While this was all going on, a term came to mind, projecting or projection. So I looked it up to make sure that I had it right. Projecting refers to a psychological defense mechanism where an individual unconsciously attributes their own unacceptable feelings, thoughts, or traits to another person. Why did this come up in my mind today as you've been standing on this floor railing against Republicans in Texas, railing against Republicans in Washington, D.C. for not having any courage to stand up to the dictators of the governor of Texas and the president of the United States? Where's the courage for the Republicans? Let me ask you this. Every single year, we pass off this floor and the assembly floor a handful of bills that pass on unanimous votes. Unanimous. Every Republican, every Democrat votes for these bills. Some of these bills are authored by Democrats, and some of these bills are authored by Republicans. One bill in particular comes to mind. It's a very simple bill, authored by the incoming pro tem. She's attempted to pass this bill, has passed the bill 4 times, and has been vetoed 4 times. Where's the courage when a bill has unanimous votes to conduct a veto override? You don't even need us for a veto override. You can do it by yourselves. But we've come to you over and over and over and over every single year. We will support you in a veto override. We will help you in a veto override on a simple bill. Just pick the simplest one. Let's just do it. And prove that you have the courage that you're accusing us of not having. I will share with you, there are examples of Republicans in supermajority Republican states of doing that exact same thing on a Republican governor. I encourage you to have that courage.
Point of order, Madam President. This dialogue has nothing to do with what's before us here, and I'd ask you to rule in that way and ask the Speaker to stick to the matter that's on the floor before us. Thank you.
Point is well taken. If Senator Jones could please stick to the merits of the bill before us.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate our colleagues standing up and recognizing that my comments might be incendiary and accusational, similar to the opening remarks of the author. The important thing that I think is to share here is I rise in strong opposition to AB 604. The gaslighting that has been, or gavlighting, if you prefer that term better, that's been going on this morning is just the mental gymnastics that you have to do to come up with these arguments that you're making for what we're trying to do here on the floor in the state of California is just amazing to me how you do that. And I want to share, and again, other senators have said, I appreciate every single one of you. I count every single senator on this floor a friend, all 30 Democrats. I honor you, I admire you. This is not an easy job. But sometimes we have to call it like it is. We have to call balls and strikes, according to the gamesmanship analogies that were used earlier. What's happening here is simple. Gavin Newsom and Democrat politicians are trying to ram through a corrupt redistricting scheme to rig California's elections. This scheme is unconstitutional. It's undermining both the letter and the spirit of the California Constitution. It ignores the principles of germane law, election integrity, twisting the rules to benefit one party. It tramples on the will of California voters. California voters, the same people that elected all of us to office. Those voters created an independent redistricting commission precisely to keep politicians from drawing their own lines. And those voters, it was so important to them, they put it in the Constitution. This effort slices up communities, connecting desperate areas and splitting apart regions with common interests, violating the very standard the redistricting is supposed to uphold. Democrats are rushing this through under the guise of urgency. There's no emergency that justifies this abuse of process. It discards years of work by the Citizens Redistricting Commission and replaces it with raw partisan power plays. Importantly, Democrat legislators continue to refuse to answer the one simple question that's been asked dozens, if not hundreds of times, and I'll ask one more time on this floor. Who drew the maps? They claim it's a transparent process, yet fail to answer the most transparent question. And it comes at an outrageous cost, has been mentioned, more than $250 million for a special election at a time when California is facing a $20 billion deficit and you all are cutting vital services. The result is the maps that destroy representative proportionality are rigged for partisan gain, not fair representation. Senate Republicans are united against this abuse of power. We're standing together to defend Californians, to uphold our Constitution, the California Constitution, and to fight for fair and honest elections. And let's make two more points before I close. The interesting thing is you all keep bringing up Texas. Texas right now, the Republicans in Texas right now have an effort afoot to make it easier for the legislature to override, do a veto override in Texas. Republicans are trying to make it easier in Texas to conduct a veto override. I'm asking you just to try. Now, the other interesting thing about this effort is we all know this is going to fail on the ballot. This is a loser from the beginning. So what's the win? What's the upside for all of us here on the Senate floor to go blindly along with the governor's plan here? It's going to fail. And what's the only gain? I'll tell you what the only gain is. Governor Gavin Newsom is getting more headlines. He's getting more name ID, and he's creating a brand across the country so that he can run for president, and you're helping him. To my colleagues across the aisle, I strongly encourage you to stand against this self-serving governor with courage rather than acting like a march of the lemmings. I urge a no vote on AB 604.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion or debate, Senator Gonzalez, would you like to close?
Yes, thank you so much, Madam President. And I do want to say to my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, thank you so much for this very robust debate. This is exactly what democracy means and what we want the public to see, the discourse. Even if we agree to disagree or we disagree and disagree beyond measure, that is exactly what we're here for. We were all elected to take an oath to defend our democracy and to ensure that the folks that we support and represent all can see a better quality of life. And that's why we're here today. And as my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, except for one, I think of one missing member from Jackson, you know, what I will say is I hear you on integrity. I hear you on transparency. I hear you on all of that. And this is where I'm really confused, because with all due respect, it is very hypocritical to say that you believe in all this, but yet when you've been offered the opportunity to talk about what is the egregious actions by this federal government, the egregious actions by Texas legislators to disenfranchise voters, to additionally split counties and cities, to continue to violate the Voting Rights Act, to just completely ignore communities of interest, and to continue to safeguard the Trump presidency, because guess what? It doesn't just stop after 2028. Let's be real here. He wants a third term. So what does that mean for Californians if we don't do this? Well, I'll tell you what it means. It means that, again, it means that there's going to be unconcern for a ransom of $1 billion to our UC system. There's going to be silence when it comes to SNAP benefits for children who are disabled. It means there's going to be additional unconcern for the kids that won't have after-school programs and school lunches. And it means that every budget that we put out here, because we've continued to put state budgets out here, and everyone's talking about wildfires. If we're so concerned about wildfires, why didn't the other party, why didn't you all support the wildfire package relief of $2.5 billion for Altadena and Pacific Palisades residents? Why didn't you do that? So we can't sit here and talk about transparency and integrity and we want democracy, and all of a sudden now we have an epiphany about an independent redistricting commission and we're going to stand, you know, strong for that. Well, let's do that today. And today, again, AB 604 is an urgency measure, contains the new proposed congressional maps that will ultimately be the decision of California voters on November 4th. This bill will be in print for over 70 days. The maps will be available for insight from our voters, and ultimately they will have the say, and would remain in effect only until the Citizens Redistricting Commission certifies a new map of congressional districts after 2030's census maps. So these maps are temporary, again, for the elections of 2026, 2028, and 2030. Then the Redistricting Commission, which is still in effect, will then take the helm in 2032 to continue the good work that they've done. Again, the hypocrisy remains. Why are you so unconcerned? Why are you so unwilling? Why have you remained silent during this egregious overreach when Latino communities across California have been kidnapped? Why? All our democracy is being dismantled, and you want us as California legislators to just sit by on the sidelines and do absolutely nothing? Well, that's not good enough. And if you want to support my Republican minority leader, if you'd like to support a diversity, equity, and inclusion bill by the incoming pro tem, we are happy to provide that opportunity for you to do that again. So again, Californians will have the final say. I appreciate all the debate here. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Alvarado Gil. Archuleta. Aye. Adeguin. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Cabaldon. Aye. Caballero. Aye. Cervantes. Aye. Choi. No. Cortese. Aye. Daly. No. Durazo. Aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Grayson. Aye. Grove. No. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Aye. McNerney. Aye. Menjivar. Aye. Nilo. No. Ochoa Bog. No. Padilla. Aye. Perez. Aye. Reyes. Aye. Richardson. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Ciarto. No. Smallwood Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Strickland. No. Umberg. Aye. Valadares. No. Wahab. Aye. Weber Pearson. Aye. Weiner. Aye.
Secretary, please call the absent members.
Alvarado Gil. Jones. No.
Ayes 30, noes 9. That measure passes. Members, we are now going to take a very brief 20-minute recess for lunch.